So you want to break into the business? You want to be a real life designer or creative for realsies? Well, this episode right here, this one, episode 81 that we're about to jump into, this is the one for you. So let me ask you, what is it that you want to do with the rest of your life creatively? Let's just keep it in that realm, right? You want to wake up every Monday and wish that you weren't alive and be like, where's that snooze button? You know, I'm done. Drag your feet. You get late to work. You know, you're not happy. They're not especially happy with you. Does that sound like what you want to do? Maybe. Or do you want to be working? It's Friday, 5:30 rolls around. You're like, whoa, what happened? Where'd that time go? It's already quitting time? I can't believe I gotta take a weekend. I gotta get away. Gotta go break away from the job. Can't wait till Monday rolls around. And then come Sunday night, you're just chomping at the bit. Can't wait to get to work, rub shoulders with my bros and my brosettes. All those who, you know, think like-mindedly with me, another creative, right? Which of those two scenarios sounds better to you? Well, those are kind of extreme cases, you know. Not everybody that is not doing creative work or not necessarily doing what they were born to do, you know, absolutely hates work or is dreading Monday. And not everybody that is bestowed with this awesome opportunity to do what you love, to do what you're good at, not all of them are, you know, super-go-lucky, happy Monday morning, ready to get to it. Like, I'm going to get there an hour early, whether that's physically or, you know, just remotely, jump on my computer or whatever. You know, these are cases on either end of the spectrum. But I can tell you from my own personal experience, from my experience working with others who feel the same, that, you know, going to work, doing work, I mean, we all got to get paid. So you're either, you know, subsistent living or whatever it's called, you're out growing your own food and hunting your own meat and working the land all day to earn your daily bread, or you're punching a time card, or you're working for yourself and trading what it is you do for what you need to, you know, engage in commerce in this futuristic world that we're living in. So, you know, big spectrum, lots of different ways to do it, but for this world of commercial art where you're trading your skill as a creative for money, or maybe sometimes you're trading for services, you're doing work for a developer friend so that they'll maybe do some exchange work, right? Like they'll give you a number of hours of development work in exchange for you doing some design work for them. Whatever it is, and I'm famous for going on these different tangents, you know, squirrel, rabbit, I don't know. But for me, for those I know, for those I've worked with, you know, if you can do what you love or something that you're good at, and that's where it all begins, you know. A lot of times you hear people say, just find your passion, you know, and then you got kids, adults, retirees that feel like, hey, I never found my passion, or my passion never found me. And I think it's Gary Vee who talks about, first just identify something that you're good at, and then think, is this something that I could do consistently, and then get as good as you can at that thing. And then that is where the passion starts to develop. I don't know how many kids in, second grade are thinking, man, I just want to be a UI designer someday. I'm going to design these awesome experiences in the virtual world digitally so that other people can use these apps in a straightforward way. That's unfortunately not usually what happens there. What happens is you've got a kid who likes to draw or happens to be good with colors or design, or they're playing Minecraft and they realize that their houses and structures and things that they build are pleasing to the eye. They're using good color palettes, they're symmetrical or they're intentionally asymmetrical, whatever it is. That's that seed. And then they start learning about, well, how can I make money at creating? And then these opportunities arise, like, hey, in the current world that we live in, post 2007, the post iPhone era, there's such a job as UI UX design. And lots of people out there are like, yeah, we got to separate this. UX is different from UI, and no, it's all closely related. You have your specialties and at some companies they can afford to have just UX people and just UI people. Other companies, most companies, they're one and the same, and you need to learn both. But that aside, and this is one specific case, that's something that an individual starts to gain a passion for. They were passionate about Minecraft. That was fun. They ate, slept, and dreamt that, whatever the aphorism is there, cliche thing. And then they were introduced to UI UX design, interface design, whatever you want to call it. And their passion grew out of that because they started to see like what's good in this realm, what's not good. How can I make things more efficient? Are there different frameworks I can build upon, like Google's material design? And they really start to get passionate about that and study that documentation and implement that. How can I apply this to this unique problem that I have? Whatever. Suffice to say, the passion then grows, and then they find that they're quicker at it than some, or they know it better, or they get excited about maybe pushing the boundaries. And there's your passion. Check. That's your job. You're in. You're collecting them paychecks. Them dollar bills are raining down, and you're happy, right? Well, in the end, let's just be real. Happiness is a choice. You can tell yourself, oh, once I get through school, once I get this job at this place, I'll be happy. But until then, I'm a starving artist, a poor student, whatever. I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to delay that emotion until I've achieved this level of status that I'm looking for, or whatever. But as many before me have said, and as I'll repeat, happiness is a choice, and we shouldn't tie it to these milestones necessarily in our life. We need to realize that while that's going to give us some temporary happiness, it's up to us to choose. And why do I lay this foundation? Well, because I can tell you that when I first got my first real job at a design agency, it was amazing. I didn't care what I was doing, because I'd come from, I had blue collar work for a long time, and then I tried to do my own freelance thing. Didn't know what I was doing, was stressed out of my mind. It was like just focusing on the fact I don't have a real job. I'm not providing for my family. This is hell, right? But then finally someone else validated me by saying, we're going to give you a chance. Welcome to the team. And that was huge. And literally just doing simple things, production design types of things, like, okay, here is this website, and you can see that there's this entry, every week there's a new post, and we need a new image for the blog or whatever, and this is the format, this is the template that we leverage. Your job is to look through some stock photos. Maybe you have to do some photoshopping, mix some of those photos together to create a nice image to go behind this next blog thumbnail, lay out your text. And I was just eating it up, and I wanted to work quickly, and my goal was to, I was given some tasks, and maybe the boss thought it was going to take me several hours. I'd do it in 15 minutes, and I was back at his door. All right, what else do you want? I was so happy, and he was initially happy and impressed and surprised, but then that quickly grew into, hey, quit bugging me. I've got my own work I've got to do. And it's not necessarily, hey, stretch this out. But I started learning, I was focused on the speed portion of it, and he just assumed I was doing what I was supposed to do and double checking my work, spelling, did I capture the feedback or the instructions from the client that were relayed to me, and double, triple check. Because that's part of it. It's not just, hey, how fast can I get this thing done? Boom, and a certain amount of errors are acceptable. No, 0 errors are acceptable. And I had to learn that the hard way. But I digress. What it comes down to is that initial joy, that excitement, that feeling of, hey, I'll do this for free, because here I am working on a sweet Mac and got all this creative energy going on. I'm inside of a air-conditioned building. We've got snacks in the break room. This is amazing. So that only takes you so far. And quickly, being reprimanded, I could have beat myself up and dwelled on it, and I messed up my big chance. I can't believe it. Here I was trying to impress, and next thing you know, I'm giving my boss a black eye because the client is asking why the accuracy is going down or whatever. But like anything, we choose to either let that defeat us or use it as a learning opportunity. And then after a while, I'm working there, and like many young professionals, I don't think it's unique to the design world, you start to think, hey, I've been here for a few months. I'm doing great. I deserve a promotion. I was a junior designer. Now I should be a senior designer or an art director, and I deserve all the money that comes with it. And then you've got this chip on your shoulder, and you're looking at the world with this lens of, you know, I can't believe my boss isn't giving me that promotion or that raise, or, you know, they just don't appreciate me. But in reality, I mean, a lot of times you're getting hired on at a small business, and it's most likely in design been bootstrapped. It's not like you're going to go and get all this seed money from investors. And so this is the perspective that I'm trying to paint for all y'all, because it's easy to forget what it was like to not have that job, or to be working a job where, you know, you're not using your talents, or you're not furthering your growth, really, you know. So with that in mind, just setting the stage that happiness is a choice, that even if you do achieve that dream job, it's still constant choice, and you have to find ways to motivate yourself. And so if you're signed up, if you're like, yeah, get on to the good part, Ike, tell us how do we land a job in the first place? Maybe I'm just out of college, maybe I'm self-taught, or maybe I've been laid off and I'm trying to break back in. You know, I got in at a time when, I'm not saying me, but you know, you who may be thinking this, got in at a time when the need was high and the bodies were few. And so even though I was a subpar designer, or par, average, then, you know, there were opportunities for me. You know, I remember 2-3 years ago, UI UX designer, you know, any kind of developer, it was just like, you name your price, it was a land grab. It's like hungry hippo, right? We'll just smash them, collecting as many little people marbles as we can, so that we can say, look at our growth, look at our amazing huge team, come work for us, we're a family, don't get me started, right? We've all maybe experienced some of that, and there are trade-offs that come from working for someone else, whether it's, you know, in an agency, small studio type of environment, or you're working in-house at a big corporate tech company, or maybe they're West Coast style, not corporate, you know, Silicon Valley, Silicon Slopes type place. So there is the landscape. There are some things to think of as we get into what I think, what I believe, what my experience is as someone who has looked for several jobs in my past and been blessed to land several good jobs, as well as being on the other side of the table in an interview or reviewing portfolios and wading through hundreds, if not thousands, of applications and identifying what it is that sticks out. How can you, because that's why you're here, right? How do I differentiate myself in a positive way so that I can land that job, start collecting the cash, and not be so stressed about not having what I need, right? So there's no particular order here of importance, but first and foremost, you know, just cover some of the low-hanging fruit stuff, okay? So if you're applying to a position and, you know, you're on LinkedIn or Indeed and you can see that this job already has 20 plus applicants, 100 plus, you know, 700 plus, as we're seeing these days, you know, just know right off the bat, if it's a higher number, the recruitment team is going to be kind of tasked with whittling that down so that the hiring manager, the creative director, the art director, CMO, CEO, whoever the hiring manager is for the position, so that they can have a manageable number of portfolios and resumes to look at. So, and this is subjective a lot of times, but there's also some real hard, fast rules. Welcome to technology land where there's a bunch of automation, you know. While companies will say, hey, we no longer require a bachelor's degree, you know, we know that that's an antiquated thing to ask for. Those stupid recruitment tools will say, hey, we've got 700 people, let's just whittle this down real quick and make a college degree required. So yeah, so there are definitely automated ways that these companies use to bring the numbers down that they're going to finally present to the hiring manager. You know, they want to give them definitely sub 100, more likely like 20. You know, here are the top 20 applicants that we've seen over the past couple of weeks because they're coming in so hot and fast. Check these out. And so, you know, if you get to that point, great. So you want to increase your opportunity of getting to that point. So if there's a lot of applicants in there, or you see all of these different locations, you know, it's like every big city, Seattle, Salt Lake, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, and it's remote, and you can tell that they're just throwing out big cities to try to get on the radar. You know, go ahead and apply, you know, 20 times to the same position on all of these different paths. You know, there may be some ways that some of these tools help eliminate that, but from what I've seen and heard, you know, it's possible in most cases. So, you know, increasing your number, it's just like someone pulling a number out of a hat. If you've got more pieces of paper in there, the chance of your number getting pulled is better. But there's just that low-hanging fruit. You know, they might also whittle the pool down because somebody didn't attach a resume. You know, they just did the auto, you know, fill out my resume or use LinkedIn. Or they didn't, you know, supply a link or an attached portfolio. Because your resume and portfolio, they're both important, even today. So just make sure you're doing those low-hanging fruit, important things. You know, there's other things like don't have typos or grammar issues in your resume. You know, when you're writing your cover letter, make sure that it's tailored to that specific job. You know, if the hiring manager, or especially the recruiters prior to even getting to the hiring manager, they start to feel like, oh, this was just one of 20 applications that this person put out over the past couple of weeks, they're gonna likely look past it. Or that's gonna, in an area where competition is high, that's something that could hurt you. You know, I've heard some hiring managers really pride themselves, like, yeah, if I find one missing period or one typo, you know, that's it, they're done. They could have the best portfolio in the world. You know, me personally, I'm not that concerned about that, if someone's a copywriter and that's what you're hiring for, then okay. But if they're a 3D illustrator, that's not going to be the end of the world. But better safe than sorry, right? Okay, so number one, low-hanging fruit type stupid mistakes. Gotta avoid those, all right? Next up is your portfolio. Because in this, and when I say portfolio, that could be your motion reel, your animation reel, video reel, the actual, that may be what the job is looking for. So that's got to be amazing. And there are a couple of pitfalls. Now this isn't a comprehensive guide, I'm going to miss some stuff. We could dive in deeper. Just these are some things that if you do, chances are going to go up. Okay? So with regard to the portfolio or video reel, motion reel, you gotta make sure that it only includes your best stuff. Okay, so if you're throwing stuff in there just because you want to show that, hey, I've worked with more clients and I'm not proud of this piece, but I'm going to throw it in there, not a good idea. Because in a lot of cases you're judged by your weakest piece. Another thing, motion reel, video reel, you're so proud of it, you took all this time, you poured your heart into this work, and you want the recruitment person or the hiring manager to really see all the effort you went into. So you're like, of course they're going to want to watch my 5-minute reel, right? Because it's so good. No, try to keep it under a minute, 90 seconds max. And that's plenty of time to give them a feel for what it is you do. And you could supply links to the full, pieces as well, and just say, here's my reel, but here are some additional links in case you want to watch more of, whatever video or animation was included in there. But I would say that's not, in most cases, not necessary. You include that reel, and if it's your best stuff and it's got to apply to the job, so if all you're showing is 3D monster and character walk cycles, but you're trying to get a job as a motion designer where you're going to do like After Effects, Cinema 4D, explainer type videos, well, you may know how to animate a creature and get it to walk, but that's a stretch to think that you're going to be able to apply that to our corporate, 2D looking explainer video about our software, about our applications. So make sure it applies. And you want to go the extra mile, well, do a handful of different reels. Maybe you're a talented person with a lot of skills and you've worked in different industries, or you're just starting out and you're not sure which direction to go, but you can be equally as happy doing character animation as motion design. Well, do 2 separate reels and make sure that you just send the right company the right reel. And that applies to your portfolio as well. One thing as like a student, like you'll see kids coming out of college and you see 10 of them from the same institution and they all have the same project basically in their portfolio. And that's great, but it spells beginner, student, I'm not that passionate all over the place. Because if someone was really passionate about this and they didn't just, spin the bottle to see which job they were going to be assigned to, like they're playing the game of life or something. And, oh, I got selected to be a graphic designer. Okay, I will go to college and I will do the minimal amount necessary so that I can get my design degree. And yeah, that comes through as not the person we're looking for, unless we're super desperate and they're a winner in other areas. But you may ask, hey, I'm just a student. How am I supposed to have other portfolio stuff? Mr. Ike, who thinks he knows what he's talking about. Well, let me tell you, if you were passionate about it, and this applies to developers or all kinds of professions, then you'd be doing it. You'd be doing your own case studies about things. Like, you know that you just want to design sweet shoes someday. You know, maybe for Nike, or you just love that world. You know, when you're not designing, you're running or you're playing basketball or whatever, and you're just really energized by that action sports industry. Well, create an ad for Nike or Reebok or Adidas or Bose headphones or anything that's kind of in that world, and you know, or take an ad that already exists and say, I'm going to redo it in my style. Here's a before and after. This is just spec work. This is just, you know, me, like a study. This is me putting my mark on it. Put that in your portfolio, because then it tells me as the hiring manager, wow, this person really is passionate about design. They're not just, you know, they didn't just get assigned this this path in life or whatever. Does that make sense? You know, a lot of times I don't like the phrase, does that make sense? Because it sounds condescending. Like, you know, are you smart enough to understand what I just said? But instead, I'm saying, does that make sense, as an admission that I know that I'm not always the best communicator. So, did I communicate that well enough to where it makes sense? Because you never know. So, there you go. Number 2. And again, no specific order. It's all important. Okay, so number 3, which is going to be the final one of this part of the series on how to break into the biz, you know, get your shot in front of the hiring manager or whatever. This is part 1, number 3. Now, I was kind of going back and forth what I should do for number 3, as there are several things I could call out. But in this current landscape where it's hard to even get noticed. I mean, you don't necessarily know if you've made it from just random application onto the hiring manager's desk. You don't necessarily know that you made it past the recruitment manager all the time. Some places, you know, the recruiters will do a screening call and, you know, get a feel for whether or not they should push you through to the next round, and others won't. There won't be any calls, any real communication until you're part of that list that is up for interviews. Okay, so I was gonna say interviews for number 3 and maybe some do's and don'ts, but I think that needs to wait, because first you got to get some up to bats, right? Like you need to ensure that you've done all that you can do to potentially get that interview. So number 3 is network. Okay, networking. If you're a professional and you're LinkedIn and you've got several hundred connections, and you have people in your network who already work at this company, whether it's in creative or just in some random position, a lot of times those people who work at a company, they are incentivized to help with the hiring process. So if they give a referral, they vouch for somebody, and it's probably wise to do this prior to submitting the application. Just be like, hey, I'm gonna submit an application. Can I put you as a reference or someone who referred me, and will that help you if I get hired, type of thing? Because there's a lot of times a cash bonus or reward, I forget what they call it, to submit a good quality lead. And some companies have a policy of, we're going to look closely at all of our referrals, referenced by these internal people that we've already hired and we trust, and they have our best interest in mind, right? So it makes sense. Obviously, if you're getting 700 applicants to this one job, then that may not do all that much. But number 3, leverage your network, whatever it is. So it may be that, like I said, you're linked in with some people. You can reach out to them. Hey, I'm applying for this job. Can you put in a good word on my behalf to the recruiter or the hiring manager? And be real. If this is someone who you just linked in with and they randomly accepted your invitation to link in, then are they really going to give you a reference? They know that they're linked in, but there's no real connection there. So it could hurt you if you're just spamming people, because they may go against you. They might be like, yeah, I keep getting this weird Ike guy reaching out. I've never freaking talked to him, and he's really stalkery, desperate to get this job, so maybe you should not hire this person because they seem super annoying. I don't know. I'm not gonna say for sure if I've done that, because I have, and it may or may not have resulted in that. I don't know, but I didn't get an interview. So leverage your network, and it may be your professor or someone that you were in the same class as them. Leverage whatever network that is to help give yourself a little push. And so there's lots of ways to do that. We talked about the one, being able to reference that person on the application, and then that'll help. The other part to that is they can reach out to the recruitment team or hiring and or both is better, hiring manager, and say, hey, got this person, you should definitely consider them. Or they may be willing to give you an introduction, or maybe they'll be like, hey, yeah, no, that'd be awesome. I'm actually going to lunch with that person, or we have our team meetings on Wednesday. Do you want to come meet me for lunch? Come, and then after lunch, when my team meeting starts, I'll casually kind of introduce you, and they'll see that, hey, you're a real human that doesn't seem like a stalker, and that'll increase your chances. And they'll be like, yeah, for sure. Send me your portfolio, send it to, sure, put in your application, but send the link directly to me. And since I'm the hiring manager, I'll give it an extra look, because whatever you can do to get an advantage over the other applicants, you got to do it. Now, don't kid yourself. If your portfolio or your abilities, more importantly, are not as where they need to be, in the end, it should be a meritocracy. Hire the person that is best qualified, and makes sense. there are other things there, like best qualified person may be twice the price as this close number 2, then yeah, maybe go with the number 2 and get the better bang for your buck, and you're able to hire them within your budget and all that. So there you go. There's the first 3 things. That's enough for you to already go and more confidently start applying for these jobs and maybe get yourself ahead. But join us next time for part 2, where if this has been kind of the beginner class, that one there is going to be intermediate to advanced. Okay? I haven't decided yet if there's enough content to go a 3-part series, 2-part, 6-part. I don't know yet, but stay with me. I'll take care of you. Because in the end, we're in this together, right? And while it might not seem like it right now, the pie is infinitely big, and we can all enjoy a slice. It's just that things are changing, things are changing. Right now, you got AI coming up in here. You've got robots being made. You've got the metaverse, which some may think, oh, isn't that a thing that didn't happen? And no, it's going to happen. There's different types of skill sets. It used to be, hey, I could just be a print designer. That's all I do. And if I can't do print, I'm not going to do nothing. But nowadays, you're expected to be able to do digital online stuff. And believe it or not, even have some 3D skills. So it's an ever-changing landscape, but the need, the desire for more content, for elements to be designed and created is higher than ever. And so this is still a good time, and I believe it always will be a good time to consider a career in the creative space. So until next time, my friends, keep on creating. Create or die.